Joining me now from Atlanta, former Congressman and Clinton impeachment manager, former CIA analyst, and former U.S. Attorney Bob Barr. Bob, Lindsey Graham, maybe he's watching this program. Maybe some of his people are watching this program. Maybe they're finally getting the program, and that is the pushback. There's got to be a constitutionally based pushback to what is transpiring on Capitol Hill. So whether they're watching the program or not doesn't matter. It's just good to see, number one, the pushback in the House of Representatives. It reminds me of what we saw and you endured back in 1997 with Congressman Gephardt. He was out there with all the people behind him, all the members of the Democrat caucus back then, trying to defend President Clinton back then. Now we're seeing a similar scene in the House of Representatives. In the Senate, what Lindsey Graham is arguing is very simple. And again, it's what I've been saying on this program ad nauseum. And that is, this is an unconstitutional and unprecedented system that they're putting in place here. There is no system. They're playing it by ear. But it's completely unprecedented, as in the past impeachment inquiries that occurred when you were in Congress, 1997-98, and in 1974 with Richard Nixon, and in 1868 with President Johnson. There is a precedence here, and Lindsey Graham is saying, hey, follow precedence, and if you don't, we're not even going to take it up in the Senate. This is the right thing to do.
It is the right thing to do, and it's a shame that we had to wait so long, month after month, of what the Democrats are doing against the House rules, against every precedent, against history, and against the constitutional notion of impeachment. It's a shame that we had to wait so long before somebody finally in the Senate stood up and said, enough is enough. Now, apparently this is the result of President Trump's interview a couple of nights ago, in which he sort of verbally kicked the Republicans in the rear end and said, get moving, do something to stop this unconstitutional, unlawful, unprecedented move to remove a sitting president simply because they don't like the results of the last election. That's what's at stake here. And I saw this back 20 years ago when I was in the House with the way Chuck Schumer and the other Democrats, they are street fighters, they are brawlers, they will run right over you if you let them. And what we need to do is get Republicans in the Senate and the House to do what at long last Lindsey Graham is doing, and at long last what he did at the end of the Kavanaugh hearings, and that is to stand up and stop this stuff. There are tools available that the Senate and the House can use. They need to use them.
Right. In other words, fight fire with fire. Because in the end, you're not just fighting over the 45th president of the United States. You're fighting over the office of the presidency. You're fighting over the impeachment process, which was put in by the framers of the Constitution. And you're fighting over the Constitution itself. And if this is allowed to transpire, woe is this country and the future of this country and future presidents. Because I've said on this program, as soon as the next president is sworn into office, go ahead and start impeachment, because that's effectively what the Democrat caucus has done to the 45th president of the United States. And you hear the mainstream media, Bob, and the Democrats say, oh, they're just attacking the process. All right, fine. Beyond the process, that's important, but beyond the process, let's you and I talk about the substance, shall we? And in specific, this Ambassador Taylor to the Ukraine and his testimony, which we're hearing across the mainstream media, is really condemned President Trump. That the ambassador is saying, yes, there was a quid pro quo. Okay, let's stipulate, Bob, that that's 100% accurate. My question is, so what? We had a foreign entity, and that is the Ukraine, evidence that there's no doubt that the Ukraine, or elements of the Ukraine, I don't know if it was governmental related or not, doesn't matter, but elements within the country tried to affect the outcome, tried to harm President Trump during the 2016 election cycle. That's number one. Number two, we know the former vice president has bragged about it, effectively extorting and committing, in my opinion, obstruction of justice in that country. So the president of the United States would be derelict not to bring it up and say, hey, Ukraine, you need to look into these things.
Look, if a country is set to receive hundreds of millions of dollars, as the Ukraine was, from U.S. taxpayers, I like the word you use. It would be derelict if the president of the United States didn't say, okay, Ukraine, before you get this money, we want you to cooperate with our officials, including our Attorney General, inquiring into and getting to the bottom of corruption between your country and our country, going both ways back in 2016 by every account. And if you don't do that, well, then guess what? You're not going to get that hard-earned taxpayer money that you want.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.